Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhu Cha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we are still in the 7th chapter. What verse are we on tonight?
221.
221. Can you help us out, please?
Yada swasyapi bhok kritvam mantum jihetyayam tada sakshinyāropadpayedeti iti kaiva kathavritha. When Chidabhasa is ashamed to think of himself as the enjoyer, how meaningless it is to say that he will superimpose the idea of being the enjoyer onto Bhutastha.
So the language, this is for Priya, that Vidyaranya is using Chidabhasa, which means the reflection of consciousness, is the word he's using for the ego sense. Kutastha, Kuta means either an anvil or a mountain, that which is still or established like a mountain. It's his name for the self. So here he's saying that when the ego sense begins to see what it is, listen carefully, it is the subtle intellect itself that begins to see its own fundamental unreality. You hear me say over and over again, no personal sense of self is real. If I think I'm a person, I'm deluded. That particular maxim is exactly what Vidyaranya is talking about here. Chidabhasa begins to have the thought, I'm thinking I'm a person. Here he uses the term he's ashamed. I use the term deluded. The same idea, same idea. So when you have, at least for occasions, been able to tune up the mind, just listen to the traffic flow. Who hears it? Remember, you are like space, empty, still. And if the subtle intellect understands this, it goes, oh yeah, there's nobody there. That's my real nature. And in the subtle intellect, if I think I'm a person, no personal sense of self is real. No chidabhasa is real. Only kutastha is real. So, when the thought of egoism arises, I'm Jim, I'm Puneet, I'm Priya, I see you for what you are. You can't fool me. Stop. Oh, who am I? Oh, that's right. I remember who I am. Who's remembering it? Chidabhasa. Any thoughts on this? Next one.
इत्यभिप्रेत्य भोक्ता माक्ष माक्षीपत्य विशङ्ख्यया कस्य कामायति तत शरीरात् नुजवरो नहि. Thus the words quote for whose gratification in the first verse are intended to denote that there is no enjoyer at all, and consequently to the enlightened there are no bodily miseries.
Yes. So, none of the apparent heat and cold, pleasure and suffering, honor and dishonor that occur to the bodies, to the equipment, none of them belong to me. I'm ever the witness of them. Are they seen? For a while, yes. But it's like a dream. Person of realization doesn't take them as real.
To be seen as phenomena, as unchanging phenomena, and like not taken seriously.
And the paradox is, as Swamiji used to say, the way to heal the mind is to get out of the mind. That we quit believing them starts to turn the volume level down on them. They no longer afflict us. Our worries, our problems, our issues wither and die from lack of attention. I place my attention on what's real. Stop. Is that useful? Mm-hmm. Next one.
Sthulam suksham karanam cha shariram trividham smritam avashyam trividho satyeva tatra tatrochito jvaraha. Bodies are known to be of three types, that is gross, subtle and causal. And of course, there are correspondingly three kinds of afflictions or affections.
So, what are the three bodies? Gross, subtle, and causal. The gross body, the stula sharira, is the meat lump. It's born, it grows up, gets older, subject to sickness. You stab it, it has pain, it bleeds, eventually gets old and dies. The sukshma Sharira. Subtle form of the five organs of action, five organs of knowledge, the prana, the tanmatras in their subtle form, earth, air, fire, water, and ether, mind, intellect, and the ahankriti, the ego sense that's there. This is called the sukshma sharira, the subtle body. This is the body you run around in a dream. You see, hear, taste, touch, smell, run, talk, etc. Have energy, perception, feelings and thoughts, and an ego sense. In the dream, the Sukshma Sharira functions through the Stula Sharira in the waking state. If you study astral projection, I'm going to get out of my body and go to some far off place. What is it that goes there? That's the subtle body. If you see a ghost, what is a ghost? It's a grosser form of the subtle body that, for various reasons of attachment, even after the gross body falls off, sticks around a bit. What was that movie? The Sixth Sense, where he starts off, I see dead people. What's he seeing? He's seeing the Sukshma Sharira. And it is the subtle body that goes to the various lokas, Punya Lok, Papa Lok, Swarga, Naraka, to live out the unresolved desires, and eventually comes back to Manushya Loka. What's Manushya Loka?
Human realm.
Yes. Meaning it goes into another physical body. Then we have Karana Sharira, the causal body, which is another name for my particular bundle of vasanas. We can't directly perceive the content of the causal body. We can only infer its content from its effects. From its effects. Meaning, I wake up, I gym, I have these particular desires, and I take these particular actions. What state do we experience the causal body only in itself, in its unmanifest form? Deep sleep, yes. That's the causal body. So here he's saying, I'm having a senior moment. Read the verse in English for me one more time.
That's the word. Actually, no. Bodies are known to be of three types: gross, subtle, and causal. And of course, there are correspondingly three kinds of afflictions or affections.
Yes. So the physical body, he'll probably go into this, experiences physical pain, good sensations. The mind, the subtle body, experiences sukham, pleasure, dukkham, suffering, depending on whether or not the situation is conducive or non-conducive. The causal body, let's see what he says about it. I'm not going to speak on that because I'm not sure where he's going to go with that. Next verse.
Vata pitta lekshma janya vyadhaya koti shastanau durgandhitva kurupatvat aham aha bhang ahabhangdayas. The physical body, composed of wind, fire, and water, the three humors of the body, is subject to scores of diseases and also to many other troubles such as bad odor, deformity, inflammation, and fracture.
Yes, so these are the various afflictions of the physical body. They're vata, pitta, and what's the third one?
Um, Pitta leshan.
Yes. So these are the three humors, is the way they're usually translated into English. If any of you have gone to an Ayurvedic doctor, you've been to one.
Mm-hmm.
Do they talk about balancing out these three humors? Do you do these things, eat this, don't eat that, etc.
Yeah.
To balance out that. It's a different way of approaching health. But basically, what he's saying, these are the afflictions, the characteristics that happen to the stula sharira, the gross body. Next one.
Interesting that the earth element is not part of the humors of the body. It's wind.
No, it's not one of the humors. That's an element, not a humor.
I see.
Another list of stuff.
Right.
All right, next one. This should be the breakdown of the sutra sharira.
Kama krodha daya shanti dantyadhya linga dehagaha jvara dvayepi bandhante praptya naram kramat. The subtle body is affected on the one hand by desire, anger, and so forth, and on the other by inner and outer control, peace of the mind, and serenity of the senses. The presence of the former afflictions, the presence of the former affections and the absence of the latter lead to misery.
Yes. So all of my emotional reactions, and he had kama, craving, krodha, anger. Was it bhaya, the third one?
No, there were just two and so forth.
And so forth. Okay. So anger, competition, ambition, also affection. Oh, I love you. Attachment. Gimme, 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 gimme. Positive and negative things, all based on our sense perceptions, force of the past. I like to summarize it simply as this: when the situation is conducive, based on my past experience, the mind is happy. When the situation is non conducive, the mind is unhappy. Now, the problem is the mind in ignorance, the subtle body, has the unrealistic expectation that getting what I want will make me happy. And when I get what I want, the object or person is never going to change, and my mind is never going to change. Can I share just a little stuff of what we chatted about this afternoon? It isn't personal.
Okay, sure.
So Priya had a job, and in the beginning, she loved the job, and there were really cool colleagues and stuff like that. You enjoyed it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the personnel changed, and the environment changed, and it wasn't quite so conducive. What happened?
Yeah, I'm not there anymore.
Yeah. But you can't say, this job will always make me happy. That's unrealistic. Unrealistic. Smash the idea that I need to play whack-a-mole with the world in order to be happy. Or as Yoga Vasishtha says, Why try to cover the world in leather when you can wear shoes? So it is the subtle body that suffers its particular sukham dukkam cha, happiness and misery, based on conducive and non-conducive environments. So here's the world going round and round and round. And here's my mind going round and round and round. So this is what's going on. Every once in a while, wham! That's the right person for me. That's the right job for me. That's the right place to live for me. And then this. And wow! Now, I'm going to tell you a very funny and true story. All of you know about Pavlov and his experiments to condition dogs. Yes, no? So what he would do would be ring the bell and feed the dog, ring the bell and feed the dog. And after a while, the dog got conditioned. So when he rang the bell, the dog would salivate. He was going to get fed. He did another experiment. After he had conditioned the dogs, he rang the bell and didn't feed the dogs. Rang the bell and didn't feed the dogs. They initially developed disappointment. Then after that, they became deconditioned. Then he did a third experiment. Rang the bell, fed the dog, rang the bell, fed the dog. Then changed it. Rang the bell and randomly fed the dog. Once he got that process going, the dog could not be deconditioned. That's the world. Because the fact of our experience is sometimes it's really good, isn't it? And it's so hard to let go. Because that's the Lord's Maya. If it sucked all the time, you wouldn't do it. But every once in a while, juice. This is why mature vairagya is so difficult. It can only be done through deep, penetrating insight. So these are the conditions of the Sukshma Sharira. And it's constant struggle, it's constant efforting in an attempt to find happiness in a mutable, always changing, essentially void world. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Swamparam cha na vetyatma vinishta iva karane agami dukkha bijam chet yetindrena darshitam. In deep sleep, the state of the causal body, the jiva knows neither himself nor others and appears as if dead. The causal body is the seed of future births and their miseries. So saw Indra as declared in the Chandogya Upanishad.
Yes, so he makes it very clear. This is the condition of the causal body. It is the mind folded up into avyakta, the unmanifest. The state is, I know nothing. And I can't even think the thought, I know nothing. You have to wait till the morning. Oh, I must have slept so soundly, I can't remember a thing. But it is blissful because there's no Vikshepa Shakti. There's no projecting power. The subtle body is in abeyance. The gross body is not available for experience. When you were going through your period of your broken leg, so did your leg ache as the bones were knitting?
Yes.
Did it ache when you were sound asleep?
Not that I remember.
Yeah. See the point? Your bones can only ache when you're awake. Sometimes in the dream. Did you dream you had an achy leg?
Don't even remember that.
And if our mind is agitated or the body is in pain, sometimes sleep eludes us. That's really uncomfortable. All right. Any questions about the causal, subtle, and gross bodies and their various states? Next verse.
एते ज्वरा शरीरेषु त्रिषु स्वाभाविकामताः वियोगे तु ज्वरैस्तानि शरीराण्येव नासते. These affections are said to be natural to the three bodies. When the bodies become free from them, they cease to function.
Did you say affections or afflictions?
Affections.
I think the attachment is what he means by this. So as long as I'm attached to this, then I'm in bondage. When I can renounce my preoccupation with the physical, needing to beautify, get massages, being touched and stuff like that. The more I get it, the more I want.
What do you renounce at the causal level? Or rather, he says when the bodies become free from them. So what does he refer to from the causal perspective?
My take on that would be when I renounce ignorance, first of all, because that's the essence of pure vasana.
But does that change? I guess what the causal body doesn't really renounce it.
No, it can't do anything,
Right.
but you can renounce your identification with it. For example, here's a way in which it may be useful to understand what he's saying. I don't know where he's going, but there are people who confuse manolaya with manonasha. Lots and lots of meditators think they're going into meditation and they're headed towards laya, which is approaching unconsciousness. Oh, I was so relaxed. It was so peaceful. It was so great. That's my meditation. I put on some new age music and smoke a joint. Oh, I love to meditate that way. I like to meditate lying down because I get more relaxed. You go to your local yoga studio and corpse pose, shavasana, isn't that what it's called? Oh, group is there, and then all of a sudden you hear, oh, people going toward unconsciousness. You get really stuck there. Get really stuck there. That's not manonasha. So the mind in meditation is silent but vigilant. So that may be a way in which one is attached to the cause of body.
So the destruction of the vasanas is the destruction of the causal body.
It's in a sense. Does the Jnani go to sleep at night? Yes. That's foolishness. They know he's wide awake staring at the ceiling. Now you will probably need less sleep because you process things much more effectively. But he's talking about attachment here. And frequently, for example, if people are in a state of clinical depression, they crave sleep. They'll sleep 12, 14 hours a day. Any of you ever gone through a period like that or known someone who's done that? It's not uncommon. And there one has the attachment for unconsciousness. Or we can say the person who wants to get drunk. The state of being drunk is highly tamasic. It deadens everything. If you drink enough of it, you go into a blackout. Or if you get attached to downers, sedatives, things like that. This, in a sense, is an attachment to the cause of body, affection for it. I don't know. Let's see if he says any more on it. That's just my take. Anybody else have a view they want to express on that? Going on.
Tantor viyuj ye tantor viyuj ye na pato valebhya kambalo yatha vridao khatastatha deho swara swarebhyopiti drishyataam. As there is no piece of cloth without cotton threads, no blanket without wool, and no pot without clay, so the three bodies cannot exist without these affections.
So the cause of these three bodies are these affections. So at a rudimentary level, as long as they continue to exist, there will be what I would call preferences. So does the Swami get sick? No.
It's like saying almost like it's the nature of the three things.
Yes. When the brahmacharis got very arrogant in 1988, wanted to be served food first before everybody else, Swamiji went ballistic. You have not seen anger until you've seen the anger of a completely focused mind. Railed against the view, dishonored the mission, you've dishonored the tradition. From now on, you will eat last and you will serve everybody else. Oh, and then he'd go through a few more shlokas and then scream and yell at him again. He was so mad. And then he just stopped. Someone asked him, Swamiji, you get angry? He says, I do not get angry. I use my anger. I keep it in my pocket. And I take it out when I need to use it. And when I'm finished, I put it back. But you and I may not be able to make the choice to be angry. We are compelled when the ego gets triggered. And in terms of the affection for deep sleep. So Swamiji traveled all around the world. I never once heard him complain about jet lag, nor did he ever miss a class because of it. Sleep or lack thereof, when he needed to sleep, he was able to, and when he was circumstances like a 30-hour plane flight were such that he couldn't, he didn't. So that's what I think the meaning is. Any thoughts on it? All right, next verse.
चिदाभासे स्वतः कोऽपि ज्वरो नास्ति यतश्चितः प्रकाशैकस्वभावात् एव दृष्टं न चेतरत्. Yet, as a matter of fact, these affections are not natural to Chidabhasa. They belong only to the bodies with which Chidabhasa is identified. It is to be noted that the reflected consciousness is not different from pure consciousness, and both are self-luminous by nature.
Yes. So this reflection of consciousness, when it becomes Jivan Mukta, the awakened mind, liberated personality, then it is not afflicted by these affections in the body. So if the body has an infirmity, the woman of knowledge, it's just the body, not a big deal. If the situation is non-conducive, will a thought of annoyance arise? It very likely will. But the jnani just drops it. They have a desire for a particular dish. It's not available. All right, no big deal. And of course, sleep is natural to the body. But the mind of the jnani doesn't get all worked up over it. When you're tired, sleep. What's the big deal? So this is the cultivation of what Gita calls samadrishta, this equality of mind. So we have to attain to yoga arudha. Rudha is a riding term. Ashwarudha is to mount a steed. Yoga rudha means I'm willing to do anything for the rest of eternity, and I'm willing to do without anything for the rest of eternity. I'm okay. I understand that it is, what's the term you use that I love so much? Perpetual radical acceptance. Wasn't that it?
Yeah.
I just love it. Whatever's going on. Perpetual, meaning I keep doing it in the now, in the now, in the now. Radical, being at the very root. acceptance, surrender, detachment, many different. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
चिदाभासे व्यसंभाव्या ज्वरा साक्षिणी का कथा एवं येकतां मेने चिदाभासो ह्यविद्यया. None of these affections are natural to Chidabhasa. How can they be attributed to Kutastha? The fact that through the force of ignorance, avidya, Chidabhasa imagines himself to be identified with the three bodies and is affected.
So, this Chidabhasa, this karta, this agent, this reflection of consciousness in the subtle intellect, when it is under the throes of ignorance, it identifies with the three bodies and then it suffers. But when it realizes its own self nature, it is the Chidabhasa which realizes, oh, I am Kutastha. Then everything changes. Or to frame it the way Yoga Vasishtha says it, both bondage and liberation occur to the mind. The self is ever free. The self does not get realized. Self is already realized. It's my stupid mind. It is Chidabhasa that has the problem. So the liberated personality, the Jivan Mukta, the Jnani, the Sthita Prajna Purusha. We have many, many different names for what we call the enlightened person, the self-realized person. Listen carefully. This is descriptive language we in ignorance use when we refer to the Mahatma. What is the Mahatma's experience? Not, I'm a realized person. I'm a Jiva Mukta. I'm a Mahatma. Aham Brahmasmi. I'm not a person at all. I am Brahma. I have no relationship with these three bodies. They appear like a shadow. See, they're not real. Don't try to be a holy person. No, you are Brahman. No personal sense of self is real. But something does happen to this Chidabhasa. When it's in the state of ignorance, it identifies with the body. Then it suffers. When it has knowledge rooted in direct experience, it identifies as Kutastha, meaning I have the deeply rooted conviction I am Brahman. Any thoughts on this? Next verse. He's really clear. I like it.
Not which was here. 231.
231.
Sakshi Satya Tvamadhyasya Svenopete Vapustraye Tatsarvam Vastavam Swasya Swarupam Iti Manyate. Chidabhasa superimposes on the three bodies the reality of the Kutastha and imagines that these three bodies are his real self.
So, what he's talking about here is what in the tradition we call Anyonya Adhyasa. Anyonya Adhyasa is mutual superimposition. I attribute to myself the qualities of the not self, meaning the body, mind, intellect. And then I attribute to the not self. There's two ways to look at it. First, those things are separate from me and they're over there. The different people and beings have chit consciousness, which is separate from me and over there. And most dastardly, they have joy-giving properties over there. But what he's going to talk about is a little more immediate adhyasa. I think the body's myself. I attribute to the body the qualities of the Atma. I think that's myself. Going on.
Etasmin bhrantikaleyam sharireshu jwaratsvatah swayam eva jwaram iti manyatehi kutumbivat. As long as the illusion lasts, Chidabhasa continues to take upon himself the states which the bodies undergo and is affected by them. As an infatuated man feels himself affected when something affects his family.
So, many of us have what today's psychobabble we call enmeshment. In my family, I'm in everybody else's business and they're in mine. So he's saying that person here who has the affection or the attachment, when mummy is upset, oh, I feel so badly, mummy is upset. My nephew gets a bad grade in school. How could that happen? My brother is just a terrible father. He should be doing it differently. In other words, my relatives become extensions of my ego. We see that and we go, you got to learn to let go. You can't do someone else's yoga. You can't do someone else's life. You got enough to worry about taking care of your own stuff. So common. So common. So this is when I consider my family's problems as mine. Out of affection. And here Vidyaranya is saying that's what we do. I lose sight that the body and the subtle body are objects of awareness, that their states never touch me. I see my shadow, it gets long, it gets short, but it never affects me. So also break this habitual identification with the gross body and the subtle body, the causal body. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
putradareshu tapyatsu tapam iti vritha yatha manyate purushastadvad abhasopyabhimanyate. An ordinary man is afflicted when his son or wife suffers. Similarly, Chidabhasa unreasonably thinks that he is afflicted by bodily ailments.
So the same idea I just talked about. I think when the body suffers, I am sick. And more dastardly, when someone criticizes me and the mind reacts, I think it's about me. You're ugly. Whoa! And the opposite. Oh, you're so beautiful. Not only that, you're smart too. Oh, you've noticed. We soak it up like wine. We're all attached. And then when it changes, not if, it will change, I promise you. You do bad work. You're stupid. Bro. Yeah. We're putting you on a personal improvement. We call it a bit, right? Is that the right word?
Performance
Yeah. I think it's about me. Now, some gurus, I actually think I saw Swamiji do this once, will be able to discern if a student has perfectionism as a klesha. And what the guru will do is give you a task that's impossible to complete well. Do this and have it done by such and such and so and so. Yes, Guruji. And you can't do it. It's impossible. Why would the guru do that? Think. What do you think the answer is?
Get them to let go of that klesha.
Say
To
again.
get them to let go of that klesha, for them to see that they have that klesha
What klesha?
of perfectionism.
Yes. That if the mind says, oh, I'm a piece of poop because I can't do this, that's a phony idea. Behind that is this, I need to do it right. I need to do it perfectly. True story. Very, very early in my first exposure to 12-step traditions, I was walking down Market Street. No, there was Mission Street with this fellow named Ray. And we passed by a wino in a doorway. He turns to me and says, there's another perfectionist. Because the pain of that identification is so painful. So the body will perform its allotted dose of successes and failures. The mind will have its allotted dose of conducive and non-conducive situations. The intellect will have its allotted dose of understandings and confusions, knowing and not knowing. Get out. Have no relationship. Put the robot on automatic pilot. Let it fulfill its product in the world. Just like, do you have any real concern when the sun gets low in the sky and your shadow is long? Next day, when the sun is high up, your shadow is little. Have no concern for it. There's no real agent there. You're gonna do what you're gonna do. Held by the quality of the mind, Buddha, and the force of the past, karma. That's the agent. No regrets. No worries about the future. Next verse.
विचित्य भ्रान्तिमुञ्चित्वा संयप्य गणयन् सदा चिन्तय चिन्तयन् साक्षिणं कस्मात् शरीरमनुसञ्ज्वरेत् by discrimination, riddling himself of all illusion and without caring for himself, the Chidabhasa always thinks of the Kutastha. How can he still be the subject to afflictions pertaining to the bodies?
Yes. So what is this Chidabhasa do? This agent in the subtle intellect discriminate between the self and the not self. I am not the body, I am not the prana, I'm not the feelings, I'm not the thoughts. I am never the personal sense of self. What am I? Kutastha. And what is this world? This world is just the play of universal consciousness. The names and forms are mithya, illusions. Vaitatya, false. Take it easy. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff. Don't worry. All gonna work out. Nothing's going to harm you. Ever. But smash the idea that ego's effort to be happy by struggling so hard to get what I want, what I deserve. I'm not getting my needs met. Oh, it dresses itself up in so many ways. It's always just karma. It's the essence of suffering. Yoga says, drop the rock. Do what's in front of you. Don't worry about the result. Don't be a jerk. Pretty simple stuff. And when you're a jerk, let it go. Next verse.
अयथा वस्तु सर्पादि ज्ञानं हेतु पलायने रज्जु ज्ञाने हि ध्वस्तौ कृतमप्यनुशोचति. When a man takes a rope for a serpent, he runs away from it. When the illusion is negated and the true nature of the rope is known, he realizes his error and is ashamed of it.
Yes. So, as in so many Vedanta texts, snakes and ropes, snakes and ropes, snakes and ropes. We've all heard this image. So again, what happens? The substratum, what's there, what's real, relatively speaking, is the rope. But because of adhyasa, superimposition, caused by ignorance and subsequent delusion, I imagine a snake. Where's the snake? Is it down there on the ground? It's in my mind. As long as I keep dancing with the snake, first of all, I'll never be free from fear. How close can I get to the head of the snake without it biting me? But I'll never see what the substratum is. How do I see the rope? I have to get a calm enough mind to investigate. So also, long as I keep dancing with the phenomenal world in ignorance, I will go from birth to birth, experience to experience. You've heard me say so many times, 95 cents worth of work was worth the juice. Just bad economics. I don't know. Enjoy your life. Don't make it so heavy. Cherish it. Knowing every experience is so temporary. Don't base your serenity on things of this world. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
मिथ्याभियोगदोषस्य प्रायश्चित्तत्वसिद्धये क्षमापय निव क्षमापयन्निवात्मानं साक्षिणं शरणं गतः. As a man who has injured another through ignorance humbly begs his forgiveness on realizing his error, so Chidabhasa submits himself to Kutastha.
So, there you are in a crowded line at the movies and you inadvertently step on someone's foot. Oh, I'm so sorry. You humbly beg their pardon. So also Chidabhasa, this personal sense of self, subtle intellect. When it sees what's really going on, it humbly submits to Kutastha. What does that mean? It means when a personal sense of self tries to assert itself, the intellect itself sees its own unreality. It has the contradictory thought, no, that's not real. I am Brahman. Not because I've repeated it, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. We don't mean that. We mean from your own direct experience and deep understanding. Over and over again until you are firmly rooted in this knowledge, till the mind quits throwing up doubt. Then the abhyasa, the practice, ends. How long do I need to do practice, Jim? Till your doubts are gone. What's the doubt? The doubt that I am Brahman. When I still think I'm a person. I have moments when I think I'm a person. I've got work to do. That's simple. All right, one more.
Avritta papanur yatham snanadhya paryate yatha avarta yanniva dhyanam sada sakshi parayanaha. As a man does not as a man does repeated penance of bathing, etc., for repeated sins, so Chidabhasa too repeatedly meditates on Bhutastha and submits to it as his witness or substratum.
So again, he's referring to the practices of a Brahmana who lives a life of ritual. If you do things that defile you, then you have to take a ritual bath to cleanse you from papam and accrue punya. Pops to my mind when I was at Adi Shankara Nilayam. Now they call it SIF, Chinmaya International Foundation, which is a big Nambudri estate in Kerala. And there's an Ayyappa temple, but there's a big tank about the size of my living room. And the pujari, every night when he would do puja, would come and he would have like a lungi and dip into the pool, and then he'd go to the temple soaking wet to do the puja. Have you ever, any of you ever seen that? Mm-hmm. Yes, no?
Yeah.
And it's so that he's ritually completely pure. And he doesn't do it just once, he does it every night before he does the art. As the idea is you accrue papam during the day. You've had an impure thought, you've done impure action, etc. So the idea here is, how long does this Chidabhasa need to do the discrimination? How frequently do I need to reject the personal sense of self when it arises? And then assert, no, I'm Chidakash, space of pure awareness. I'm Kudastha. As long as the papa arises, long as Chidabhasa continues to throw up these error thoughts. All right, we'll stop here. What verse are we on for next week?
238.
238. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.